The emergency klaxons blared through the research vessel's cockpit as Commander Dominic Hayes wrestled with the controls. His ship, battered by an unexpected quantum storm, plummeted toward an uncharted planet's surface. "Computer, status report." Dominic shouted over the cacophony of failing systems. "Hull integrity at 47%. Primary and secondary engines offline. Impact with planetary surface imminent." Dominic gritted his teeth, watching as the swirling purple atmosphere rushed up to meet him. He'd been mapping quantum anomalies in this sector when the storm hit, throwing his ship light years off course. Now, as the vessel groaned around him, he could only hope the emergency protocols would keep him alive. The surface detail slowly emerged through the clouds, crystalline formations jutting from the ground like massive diamonds, their faces reflecting the light of 3 moons. Beautiful, Dominic thought, even as his ship screamed toward them. Impact was inevitable. Dominic activated the emergency stasis field and braced himself. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him was a brilliant flash of crystalline light. He awoke to whispers, soft, melodic sounds that seemed to resonate within his skull. Dominic opened his eyes slowly, vision swimming into focus. He lay on some kind of translucent platform, surrounded by tall, humanoid figures that appeared to be made of living crystal. Their bodies were semi-transparent, with swirling energy patterns flowing beneath their surface. They moved with fluid grace, their crystalline forms catching and refracting light in mesmerizing ways. "The outsider wakes," one of them said, their voice chiming like wind through crystal chimes. "I am Sarah, the first speaker of the Lumari Council." Dominic tried to sit up but found himself gently restrained by some kind of energy field. "I mean no harm," he managed to croak out. "My ship was damaged." "We know," another figure stepped forward, their form darker and more angular than Saratha's. "I am Nixon, Chief Protector. Your vessel's descent was detected by our sensors. We rescued you before impact." Dominic relaxed slightly, though his training kept him alert. "Thank you. I am Commander Dominic Hayes of the Earth Science Vessel Horizon. I apologize for intruding in your space." Saratha's form shimmed with what might have been amusement. "No apology needed, Commander. Perhaps your arrival is fortuitous. Our people face a grave crisis, and you may be exactly what we need." The energy restraints dissolved, allowing Dominic to sit up. He noticed his environment for the first time, a vast chamber with walls that seemed to pulse with living light. Other Lumari moved about their tasks, each one unique in their crystalline composition. "What kind of crisis?" Dominic asked, his scientific curiosity piqued despite his situation. Nixon and Saratha exchanged what seemed to be meaningful glances. "Our people are dying," Saratha said finally. "We require certain types of energy to sustain ourselves, energy we once obtained through trade with other species. But we have been isolated for centuries, cut off from the galactic community. Your arrival, your very life force, it resonates with a frequency we haven't encountered in generations." Dominic felt a slight tingling sensation as Saratha moved closer. "You mean my biological energy? My life force?" "Yes," Nixon confirmed. "Human energy signatures are particularly compatible with our needs. Even now, your presence strengthens us." The implications slowly dawned on Dominic. "You need me to help save your species?" "We would not force you," Saratha assured him. "But we hope you might be willing to learn more about our people, to consider helping us find a solution. In return, we offer you knowledge of our science, our culture, our understanding of quantum physics that far surpasses your own." Dominic stood carefully, testing his balance. His scientific mind raced with the possibilities, while his training urged caution. But looking at these remarkable beings, feeling the gentle resonance between his own energy and theirs, he knew he couldn't simply walk away. "I'll help if I can," he said finally. "But I need to understand everything, your biology, your history, how this energy transfer works. And I need to know I can trust you." Saratha's form brightened noticeably. Of course. We will share everything with you, Commander Hayes. Welcome to Nixus, home of the Lamari. Perhaps together, we can ensure it doesn't become our final resting place. As Dominic followed his new hosts deeper into their crystal city, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just changed forever. The question was, would it be for better or worse? Over the next few days, Dominic immersed himself in learning about the Lamari civilization. Their crystal city, Luminara, was a marvel of organic technology, buildings that grew and shifted according to need, powered by the collective energy of its inhabitants. Sarah proved to be a patient teacher, explaining how the Lamari had evolved from simple crystal formations into sentient beings. We exist as energy patterns within our crystalline matrices, she explained, her form glowing softly in the artificial twilight. But these patterns require constant renewal from compatible energy sources. Like a battery that needs regular recharging, Dominic mused, taking notes on a datapad he'd salvaged from his ship. A simplified analogy, but essentially correct, Nixon interjected. The chief protector had taken to observing Dominic's lessons, his darker crystalline form always hovering at the periphery. Without energy renewal, our patterns begin to fade. We die. A third Lamari joined them, Lasara, the city's lead scientist. Her form was shot through with veins of blue light, pulsing in complex patterns. We've lost nearly a third of our population in the last century, she said, projecting a holographic display of declining population figures. The isolation has taken its toll. Dominic studied the data, his heart heavy. But you said human energy is compatible. How exactly does that work? The three Lamari exchanged looks again, something they often did before discussing sensitive topics. Finally, Lasara spoke. It requires direct energy transfer through physical contact. The closer and more prolonged the contact, the more effective the transfer. You mean? Dominic felt his face flush as understanding dawned. Intimate contact yields the best results, Sarah confirmed, her tone gentle. But we would never force such interaction. There are other, less efficient methods. Dominic stood and paced the chamber, mind racing. How many of your people could one human sustain? A single human's energy signature, properly shared, could sustain dozens, Lasara explained. But the process would be demanding. And potentially dangerous for the human, Nixon added. Too much energy drain could be fatal. Dominic continued pacing, weighing the implications. The scientist in him was fascinated by the biological mechanics involved. The human in him was both intrigued and apprehensive about the intimate nature of the energy transfer. Show me the less efficient methods first, he said finally. I want to understand exactly what we're dealing with before considering more intensive options. Over the next few hours, Lasara guided him through various energy transfer techniques. Simple touch produced a mild transfer, enough to demonstrate the process but not enough to sustain life long-term. Dominic felt a tingling warmth whenever their crystalline forms made contact, and he noticed how their light patterns brightened in response. Remarkable, Lasara murmured, recording the energy readings. Your signature is exceptionally compatible. With proper training, you could become highly efficient at energy sharing. But you're holding back, Nixon observed shrewdly. Why? Dominic sighed, running a hand through his hair. I'm a scientist first. I can't help thinking there must be a way to synthesize this energy, to create a sustainable solution that doesn't rely on intimate contact with other species. We've tried, Lasara said, her form dimming slightly. For centuries, we've tried to find alternatives. But the energy we need is tied to life itself, consciousness, emotion, physical sensation. It can't be artificially replicated. Not with your current understanding, Dominic countered. But what if we combined your knowledge of energy manipulation with human biochemistry? There might be possibilities you haven't considered. Sarah moved closer, her presence sending pleasant ripples of warmth through Dominic's body. You would truly try to help us find a permanent solution? Even knowing it might take years? Of course, Dominic replied without hesitation. That's what scientists do, we solve problems. And in the meantime. He took a deep breath, I'm willing to help with energy sharing. As long as we establish clear boundaries and safety protocols. The light patterns within all three Lamari brightened noticeably. You continue to surprise us, Commander Hayes, Saratha said warmly. Your species' reputation for adaptability and problem-solving is well earned. Just call me Dominic, he said, smiling. I think we're past formalities at this point. As they began discussing logistics and safety measures, Dominic couldn't help noticing how Saratha stayed close to him, her energy field harmonizing with his in subtle ways. He also caught Lasara watching their interaction with scientific interest, while Nixon's darker form seemed to pulse with something like approval. This strange arrangement might just work, Dominic thought. And maybe, just maybe, they'd discover something revolutionary in the process. The weeks that followed tested Dominic's boundaries in ways he never expected. The energy-sharing sessions began cautiously, brief contacts under Lasara's careful monitoring. But as his confidence grew, so did the intensity of the transfers. Your vitals remain stable, Lasara noted, her crystalline form hovering over her instruments. And the energy transfer efficiency has increased by 47% since our first attempt. Dominic sat on the examination platform, catching his breath after an extended sharing session with Saratha. The first speaker's form glowed brilliantly, her energy patterns flowing with renewed vigor. It's getting easier, he admitted. I can almost control the flow now. You're learning to manipulate your own energy field, Saratha explained, her voice warm with pride. Few outsiders have ever achieved such mastery. Nixon, who had appointed himself Dominic's unofficial guardian, stepped forward. But you're pushing too hard. You need rest. I'm fine, Dominic protested, though the fatigue in his voice betrayed him. There's still so much work to do. The synthetic energy research can wait, Lasara interrupted firmly. Your health is paramount. Without you, there is no research. Dominic reluctantly agreed to take a break. As he walked through the crystal corridors of Luminera, he marveled at the changes already visible in the city. The walls pulsed with stronger light, and the Lamari he passed moved with greater vitality. Word of his energy sharing had spread, and while he limited direct transfers to his three main contacts, his mere presence seemed to strengthen the entire population. Your thoughts are troubled, Saratha observed, falling into step beside him. Their energy fields automatically synchronized, creating a pleasant resonance. Just thinking about long-term solutions, he replied. The sharing helps, but it's not sustainable. We need . A sudden commotion interrupted him. A group of Lamari rushed past, their forms flickering with distress. Nixon materialized beside them instantly. The outer sectors, he reported grimly. Another degradation cascade. Without hesitation, Dominic sprinted after the group, ignoring Saratha's call to wait. He reached the outer sector to find several Lamari collapsed, their crystalline forms growing dim and brittle. Degradation cascade, the final stage of energy starvation. Let me help, he insisted, already kneeling beside the closest victim. He placed his hands on their fading form, channeling his energy with practiced skill. Dominic, no. Lasara appeared, her instruments whirring. Multiple transfers will drain you too quickly. But he couldn't stop. One by one, he moved among the fallen Lamari, sharing his energy until their forms stabilized. His vision blurred, his body trembled, but he pressed on. Just one more, he thought. Just one more. He woke in his quarters, surrounded by concerned faces. That was foolish, Nixon chided, but his tone carried grudging admiration. You saved 6 lives, Saratha added softly. But nearly at the cost of your own. Dominic tried to sit up, but his body refused to cooperate. Had to try, he mumbled. Couldn't just watch them fade. Your compassion is admirable, Lasara said, adjusting something on her monitors. But you must understand, losing you would doom far more than 6 of our people. As strength slowly returned, Dominic reflected on the incident. The degradation cascade had shown him the true urgency of their situation. His energy sharing was just a stopgap, they needed a real solution, and soon. Tell me everything about the cascade process, he asked Lasara. Every detail, no matter how small. There might be clues in the degradation pattern itself. For hours, they pored over data. Dominic's scientific background helped him see patterns the Lumari had missed, asking questions that opened new avenues of investigation. Here, he pointed to a particular energy signature. The degradation isn't random. It follows a specific frequency pattern, almost like. Like what? Sarah leaned closer, her energy field mingling with his in now familiar ways. Like a quantum resonance cascade, he explained excitedly. Similar to what hit my ship. What if the solution isn't just about energy transfer, but about stabilizing your quantum matrix itself? Lasara's form brightened with sudden understanding. Of course. We've been approaching the problem from the wrong angle entirely. As they delved deeper into this new theory, Dominic felt hope rising. They might actually solve this, not just delay the inevitable, but find a real, permanent solution. But success would raise new questions. Once the Lumari no longer needed him for survival, would he stay? Could he leave behind the connections he'd formed, the incredible discoveries still waiting to be made? Looking at his companions, Saratha's gentle radiance, Lasara's brilliant intensity, Nixon's steady strength, Dominic realized the choice might not be as simple as he'd thought. After 3 months of intensive research, breakthrough finally came. Dominic stood in Lasara's lab, watching holographic models swirl around them, depicting his proposed solution. By introducing a quantum stabilization field tuned to human bioenergy frequencies, he explained, manipulating the display, we can create a self-sustaining resonance within your crystalline matrices. Essentially, we'd be teaching your bodies to generate and maintain their own energy patterns. Using your genetic template as a baseline, Lasara added, her form practically vibrating with excitement. The compatibility between human and Lumari energy signatures is the key we've been missing all along. Saratha studied the projections intently. How confident are you in this solution? The simulations are promising, Dominic replied. But we'll need specialized equipment from Earth to implement it. Equipment I can't build here. A heavy silence fell over the lab. Nixon, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. You're planning to leave. Temporarily, Dominic assured them, though his heart clenched at the thought. Just long enough to gather what we need. A few weeks, maybe a month. And if Earth authorities decide our technology is too valuable to share? Nixon challenged. If they prevent you from returning? They won't, Dominic said firmly. I'll make sure of it. Besides, I have to come back, the procedure requires my direct involvement. My genetic pattern is the template for the entire process. Saratha moved closer, her energy field entwining with his in the now familiar way that made his skin tingle. We trust you, Dominic. But the thought of you leaving. I know, he said softly, reaching out to touch her crystalline form. I don't want to go either. But it's the only way. Over the next few days, preparations for his departure consumed their time. Lasara worked with him to document everything they'd need, while Nixon helped repair his ship using Lumari technology. Saratha simply stayed close, as if trying to memorize his energy signature. The night before his planned departure, Dominic couldn't sleep. He stood in the observation dome, watching the 3 moons of Nixus cast their light over the crystal city. Luminara pulsed with life, its inhabitants stronger now thanks to his regular energy sharing, but still far from saved. You should be resting, Saratha's melodic voice came from behind him. So should you, he countered, turning to face her. In the moonlight, her crystalline form was breathtaking, patterns of light flowing beneath her surface like liquid stars. "The Council is concerned," she said, moving to stand beside him. "Some fear this is an elaborate plan to steal our technology. And what do you think?" "I think," she said carefully, "that you've given us more than we ever had right to ask. Your energy, your knowledge, your dedication to saving our people. No one planning betrayal would sacrifice so much." Dominic smiled wryly. "Would it surprise you to know I've gotten far more than I've given? The advances in quantum physics alone are beyond anything Earth has achieved. But more than that." He hesitated, then pressed on, "I've found something here I never expected. Connection. Purpose. Maybe even love." Saratha finished softly. "Is that even possible? Between our species? You've been sharing your life force with us for months," she reminded him. "What is love but the ultimate sharing of energy?" Before he could respond, Lasara burst into the dome, her form flickering with excitement. "The final simulations are complete. The success probability is even higher than we projected." The moment broken, Dominic turned his attention to the data Lasara presented. They spent hours refining the equipment list and procedure protocols. By the time Nixus's 3 moons had set, everything was ready. Standing at his repaired ship the next morning, Dominic faced the gathered crowd of Lamari. Many had come to depend on his energy sharing, and all had come to see him as hope personified. "I will return," he promised, his voice carrying across the crystalline plaza. "With the means to ensure your people's survival for generations to come." Lasara pressed a crystal data core into his hands. "All our research. Everything you'll need to convince your authorities." Nixon gripped his shoulder, dark crystalline form pulsing with unspoken emotion. "Safe journey, friend. Don't make us come looking for you." Finally, Saratha stepped forward. Without words, she pressed her form against his, initiating one last energy transfer. The connection between them flared brilliant and strong, witnessed by all. As Dominic's ship lifted off, carrying him back toward Earth and an uncertain reception, he already knew his heart would draw him back to this crystal world and the remarkable beings who had changed his life forever. 3 weeks into his return to Earth, Dominic found himself facing a panel of skeptical scientists and military officials. The crystal data core projected its evidence before them, irrefutable proof of the Lumari's existence and their remarkable technology. "The quantum stabilization technology alone could revolutionize our understanding of physics," he argued passionately. "All they ask in return is our help to save their species." "And you're certain they can be trusted?" General Harrison asked, leaning forward. "That this isn't some elaborate trap?" Dominic met his gaze steadily. "I've lived among them, shared my energy to keep them alive. They could have taken anything they wanted from me, but instead they shared their knowledge freely. Yes, I trust them." After hours of debate and deliberation, approval was finally granted. Dominic worked tirelessly with Earth's top scientists to gather and modify the necessary equipment. Every delay, every setback, made him think of the Lamari growing weaker in his absence. When his ship finally lifted off Earth for the return journey, its holds packed with everything they needed, Dominic felt both relief and apprehension. What if something had gone wrong during his absence? What if he was too late? But as he approached Nixus, his worries melted away. Luminara still stood, its crystal spires reaching toward the triple moons. And there, waiting at the landing site, were the familiar forms of his friends. Saratha reached him first, her energy field embracing his before their forms even touched. "Welcome home," she whispered. The next weeks passed in a blur of activity. Teams of Earth scientists worked alongside Lamari researchers, setting up equipment and running preliminary tests. Dominic stood at the center of it all, his unique connection to both species making him the perfect bridge. Finally, everything was ready. Dominic lay in the transformation chamber, surrounded by humming equipment and anxious faces. His genetic pattern would be the key to unlocking the Lumari's self-sustaining energy. Are you sure about this? Nixon asked one last time. The process will alter your own energy signature permanently, making me compatible with Lumari physiology forever, Dominic finished. I know. That's what I want. The procedure was intense. Dominic felt his entire being resonating at new frequencies as the quantum stabilization field synchronized with his genetic code. Through it all, he felt Saratha's presence, her energy supporting his transformation. When it was over, the results exceeded their highest hopes. Not only could the Lumari now maintain their own energy patterns, but the process had given them new abilities to generate and share energy among themselves. You've saved us, Lasara announced to the gathered crowd, her form blazing with joy. The degradation cascade has been permanently halted. Our future is secure. But for Dominic, the greatest change was personal. His successful transformation opened the door for other humans to undergo the process. Within months, the first human-Lumari cultural exchange program was established, leading to advances in both societies. Standing in the observation dome one evening, watching Earth scientists and Lumari researchers working together below, Dominic felt Saratha's approach. Any regrets, she asked, her energy field harmonizing perfectly with his altered signature. Only that I didn't crash here sooner, he replied, pulling her close. Their forms merged in a way unique to their new shared physiology, neither fully human nor fully Lumari, but something wonderfully in between. Lasara found them there later, making notes on her ever-present monitors. The first human Lumari children will be possible within a generation, she reported excitedly. A true blending of our species. Always the scientist, Nixon commented, joining them. His dark crystalline form had gained subtle human characteristics since undergoing the process himself. Dominic looked at his chosen family, the brilliant scientist, the stoic protector, and the leader who had first welcomed him to this world. Together, they had not only saved a species but created something entirely new. As Nixus's 3 moons rose over the crystal city, casting their light on the gathered Earth ships and Lumari structures, Dominic knew he had found more than a scientific mission or a people to save. He had found his destiny. So, Sarah murmured, her energy pulsing with contentment, what's our next adventure? Dominic smiled, feeling the quantum resonance that now bound their fates together. With our 2 species working together? Love, I think we're just getting started.